What does refactoring actually look like? Let's look at an example based on a real iOS view controller. Hey everyone, it's John Reed from qualitycoding.org. I recently gave a talk for CocoaHeads NL called Real Refactoring, in which I demonstrated taking a view controller that was fully unit tested, at least the section that we're interested in is fully unit tested, and refactoring it from MVC, Model View Controller, to MVVM, Model View View Model. At least I started to, but for the sake of time, I cut the demo short, to talk about the principles, having demonstrated a few things. But there was this good comment that said, too bad the talk ends just before the more interesting part where there's actual logic in the item method. Was curious how you would pull these apart. Thank you for that comment, Mr. Lensink. Let's fulfill your wish and continue where we left off. If you haven't seen the previous video, I really encourage you to go back and check it out. It'll give you more context for what's going on. But real quick refresher, we're working at eBay and there are items. An item can have a title, an image, and a price, a bunch of other stuff, of course. And there are also items that might be for sale. And a sale item has those same things, the title, the image, and the price, but it also has the original price. The price shown is the discounted price to entice people to buy it, and the original price with a line through it, a strike through, to show you, wow, what a discount you're getting. So that's where we're going to continue, is with the hiding and showing of this strike-through price label. Now here we are in our IDE, but your first reaction will be, wow, this is not Xcode. What the heck is this? This is AppCode, which is a more powerful IDE for doing the kind of refactoring that I do on a daily basis. And so it is my preferred tool of choice. If you'd like to try this refactoring yourself, get a copy of the code from GitHub. If you want to try it in AppCode, then download AppCode or get the EAP if it's there, which is the pre-release beta version. And the main thing you need to know going from Xcode to AppCode is how to run tests. There's build, there's run, but where are the tests? We go in here, edit configurations. AppCode doesn't use Xcode's schemes. Instead, it uses configurations, and we add a new configuration. It helpfully offers the keyboard shortcut there of Command N, or you hit the plus and select XCTest. And there we have our all tests configuration. Now with all tests configuration selected, we run this. So it's a little different from Xcode. From here on out, I'm just going to hit Control R to run. That builds and runs the tests. Make sure if you use this particular code to select an iPad simulator. So you see it passes 10 unit tests, which fully test this view controller. The unit tests act as our safety net, allowing us to refactor. It's a critical piece of real refactoring. Here's the view model we have so far. It takes an item, and based on that item, it has a few computed properties, the title, the image, and the current price. There is just a little bit of logic around whether the item is nil. If it is, it will return nil for those properties, and that's all we have so far. When the item is set down here in the property, the didSet gets fired. It updates the view model and then queries the view model for those properties, and then sets those properties into the various views. Let's continue from the more interesting part. This is what we have left to move into the view model. And there is the item, it might have a savings rate greater than 0, which means the item is for sale. It sets various things on the strike-through price label. It calls set strike-through text, whatever that is. It sets is hidden to false or true to show or hide the strike through price label, and it clears the attributed text by setting it to nil. So this is kind of funny. The other refactoring we've done so far, there was a clear parallel between setting a property and clearing the property. What's going on here? Like why is attributed text hanging out here by itself? Let's go into here and take a look. And now we see this actually sets the attributed text. And so it's a confusing side effect. It's hard to tell what's going on without digging into it. This is an argument for avoiding side effects in extensions on objects you don't own. Let's see how we want this to actually look. What I want is to take the attributed text and set it to something up here. Let's just call something and pretend it exists. I'll say strike through text and copy the string in here. Now this function doesn't exist, so we get the red squiggly, but AppCode offers to create it for us. If we come here to the light bulb, we can see that we can make a method or a global function. Let's make a global function. There's our signature, but I want it to live really over in the other file. So let's pull it up here and change this to match. And now let's take this and copy it. What I'm doing here is I'm click into the code and then hit Option up arrow to increase the scope of the part that I want to select. And I hit copy, paste it, and that should be good to go. Let's see if this compiles. We can hit the build icon, or it shows us that we can hit Command F9. Okay, so that builds successfully, and it is a copy, so we're pretty sure that it is the same functionality. Let's come back. Instead of calling the extension, we're going to call this standalone function. Let's run tests to make sure that this works. Okay, it works. So now let's clean things up a bit. We'll delete that. We can delete this extension. Now, I like to avoid freestanding functions because they pollute the global namespace. So let's do this trick to basically put it into another name like this and reformat it and declare it as a static. And now I can use that name here and call it like this, and let's run tests again to see if this still works. Great. So now we have assignments to attributed text up here and also down here. So now this is similar enough, we can begin to move things. So I'll create a new property called strike through price, and let's see what signature this has. It returns an optional NS attributed string, so let's make that. Let's create our new property called strike through price, which returns an attributed string optional. We'll make it return nil and build just to make sure that that's fine. Okay. And now we can do the cool trick we've done before, which is to blindly and really stupidly copy the entire conditional and paste it in. And then we'll get rid of anything that is not dealing with the attributed text. Now, in this case, we could, in theory, return something that returns both the attributed text and the isHidden in a tuple. I'm not sure I like that. I'd rather keep them separated. You could always change your mind later. So let's delete this. Let's delete that. Instead of setting these properties, we now just return values. And now this else needs something in it. It needs to return something. This is funny because this actually doesn't matter to the tests. So let's just return nil, just so that it compiles. I guess I could have just compiled instead of running tests there. That's okay. So it builds just fine. And now we can call it. Say the view model, strike through price, and run tests. Here's the first big check. Okay, cool. And now also down here, you see how AppCode is really helpful in remembering your last selection, which was the strike through price. So it just suggested that, and it was really quick. Okay, so now we have these lines which are identical. But unlike last time, they're sitting at different indent levels. So let me use Command-Shift-Up arrow to pull that line up. Now they're at the same level. We'll run tests again. Okay. When it's here, it's on both sides of the if. It's on the first clause and it's in the else clause. So now I can pull it up and delete this one and run tests again. Great. Now we have an empty else, so we can get rid of that and run tests again in another provable refactoring. All right. This is starting to shrink in a big way. Let's go up and see what's going on up here. So now we're looking at this complex if inside of an if. What do we do with this? I think one thing we can do is make a guard clause so that if the item is nil, it's going to fall down here. Let's just pull this out and see if this simplifies things a bit. Else return nil like that and get rid of that. Something is still off in formatting here. Hopefully that cleans it up. I'll run tests and find out. A lot of times I'm not sure about the changes I'm making, and that's totally okay. Because that's why I have unit tests, to save my butt. So now this has, if the item savings rate is greater than 0, we return this or that. Let's come back to this. I have a feeling this is going to come into play down below, because don't we have savings rate? Yep, we're dealing with the item savings rate down here again. I don't know. These two things are related, so let's just leave it alone for now and we'll come back to it. Okay, so the next thing we have is whether or not the strike through price label is hidden. Now, this is a bool, so we can just make a new property. Through price hidden. And this will be initially true. Build. It builds fine. Now I'll take the rest of this, select and paste into where we just made this. Get rid of the setting of the property and just return the values. And here we have another case where I need to return something down here. All right, let's see if that builds. Okay, so far so good. Now we can take these assignments and set it to is strike through price is hidden and run tests. Okay, and same here. Run tests again. Okay, let's do the same trick. We've got two identical lines. I'm continuing to use the refactoring trick of taking dissimilar lines and making them identical. First making them similar and then making them identical so that I can lift it. Let's lift it out of here and run tests. Now we have a completely empty if-else clause. Let's get rid of the whole thing and run tests. And now it's inside of this one remaining conditional. Let's lift it out of that and run tests again. You see how often I'm doing this. I'm getting feedback as quickly as I can. Now we have an empty conditional. Another one. So I'll get rid of that and run tests. And this cleans up our view controller substantially. Look at this. Now it is doing what a view model should. It's just querying the view model and setting properties without any logic inside of the view controller itself, just blindly setting stuff. Now, what can we clean up here? This is the same sort of thing where I'm going to take a guard clause and say, well, if there is no item, then the strike-through price is definitely hidden. And get rid of that and those. Reformat and run tests. So now we have savings rate greater than 0 here and here. So this is kind of neat. These are in common. It's kind of calling out to extract, like, what does this even mean? It's really obtuse. Can I select this clause and extract? I can. I can extract a helper method. So what I did there was hit Command Option M to extract a method, or if you can't remember all that, you can go up here and find it here, or you can say refactor this, and it will bring up a little contextual menu from here, and you can say, extract a method, and we'll call it. So if the savings rate is greater than 0, it's is on sale. And this should still pass. Now, there's no need to pass the item in. Yes, there is, because the item out at the out up here is optional, and here it's unwrapped, and we know we have an item. Let's just kind of keep going with this. I'm kind of curious. What if? Well, let's just use it here. So now I can say is on sale. All right. Now we can simplify things a little more and say, well, return false or true based on this predicate. Well, we can say, well, just return that it is not on sale. And this should still pass, I think. If I got it wrong, it would tell me. And here we can say, you know what, return, if it's on sale, return this. Otherwise, no. You may debate whether or not you want to use a complicated conditional like this, but I kind of like it. All right. This is still a little funny. This is somewhat confusing to have is on sale refer to an argument rather than to the property. But I mean, like, I don't think I can say, well, let's try it and see. Let's experiment. If there is no item, then it is on sale or it is not on sale. And I'll say it's not on sale. And don't pass it in. Actually, let me do something else here. Let me do another refactoring here of change signature and remove that. There we go. That needs a return, so I'll give it that. I don't know. What's it going to do? I'm just sort of following this to see where it goes. Like, can I now get rid of this? I can. And can I now get rid of this? No. All right, so we'll leave that one. Now, AppCode shows this return as grayed out because it's redundant. So if you like this style, we can get rid of it. Oh, I just did this thing. You can select the light bulb, or you can select something and hit Option Enter. It's the same result. To get rid of it, join it, reformat it, and run tests again. And maybe we'll leave it here. You can debate about which direction you want to go with these things. That's totally fine. You may make different decisions. That's up to you. The cool thing about having unit tests to do refactoring like this is that you can experiment. This has ended up in a completely different place from the first time I tried it. So that's kind of neat. Now, as it stands, the view model keeps checking whether the item is nil. This is crying out to use the null object pattern to eliminate those conditionals. So I'll do that refactoring in a separate video. While I was at eBay writing the code this is based on, I didn't go to Model View View Model. Instead, I went to Model View Presenter. I plan to show that in yet another video. As you can see, there's a lot to mine in this example. I encourage you to get the code and try refactoring it yourself. You may end up with different results, which is totally fine. But make sure to move in small, verified steps. I want you to experience the power of having a fully tested view controller. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, come on over to qualitycoding.org, where I've got other good stuff for iOS developers around unit testing, test-driven development, and refactoring.